My name is Chris Dostal. I'm an assistant professor in the anthropology department in the College of Arts and Sciences here at Texas A&M, and I'm also the director of the Conservation Research Laboratory. What we're looking at here, these are ship timbers from Alexandria, Virginia. They were discovered as they built a new hotel on the waterfront in 2016, and they were excavated and brought to us for conservation. So when wood sits under the water table for a long period of time, the water breaks down the constituent components of the wood. And because of the surface tension of the water, if you're not careful about drying them out, you can cause the entire timber to collapse. So right now, these timbers are being soaked in a synthetic wax called polyethylene glycol. And once they've absorbed enough of the wax, we'll actually freeze the timbers solid, draw a vacuum on them, and sublimate directly from a solid to a vapor to remove all of the water without having to deal with the sticky nature of water.
Okay, and behind you there we've got...
Behind us, we have several cannons from the Alamo. The Alamo is redoing some of their displays, and these are cannons that were previously on display outside. They're going to be moved inside for display, so they've asked us to remove the previous coatings from conservation and redo them in a coating that's a little bit more suitable for indoor display. There's also some of the cannons still have materials in the touch hole from when they were spiked by Santa Anna's men, and so they asked us to remove those and analyze them and see exactly how they disabled these cannons.
Okay, and you're also working on some other cannons. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We also have a collection of cannons from the Savannah River. A couple years ago, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was working, I think they still are, working to expand the Savannah River. It's called the Savannah Harbor Expansion Project. And during some of that project, they discovered several cannons, and so they brought in an archaeological firm and raised these. They ended up finding 20 cannons, some anchors, a ship's bell, and a lot of that material came to us here to be conserved. They're back there a little bit further, but it's a very unique collection because some of these cannons were actually still loaded. In fact, most of them were still loaded. So as the cannon sat in the water, they started to aggregate sand and shells and fix some of the minerals from the water like magnesium and calcium, and they created a big shell around the cannon. So when these cannons sank, there was a wooden plug in the bore to keep the contents dry, and as the cannons corroded, that incrustation worked its way around the wooden plug called the tampion and sealed the bore up. So when they came to our lab and we started conserving them, as we removed that concretion on the outside, we found that wooden plug, and when we opened the wooden plug, we discovered that they were still fully loaded. They had the paper cartridge bag in the back, then a cannonball, then a wadding of hemp yarn called a junk wad that was stuffed in front of the ball, and then most of them had a second ball and another wadding. So these cannons would have been ready to fire moments after you pull that tampion out, but we're not 100% sure where these cannons came from. Our best guess at the moment is that they were on two vessels that were scuttled to keep the French fleet from coming in during the Battle of Savannah in 1779. But a couple of the cannons exhibit very unusual characteristics that we think might be a little bit later. So it's very much research in progress that we're still trying to understand.
Okay, and then in your big freezer, what do you have in there?
So in 2011, construction crews at Ground Zero discovered a vessel under 30 feet of the modern Manhattan street line. And this was a small, lightly built wooden vessel from the mid to late 1700s. And it was excavated and brought to us. So we're calling it the World Trade Center ship. It had nothing to do with the World Trade Center. It was there long before it. But it happened to be found underneath the World Trade Center. So those timbers have, over the years now, have gone through extensive chelation and iron removal. And then they were also bulked with the same synthetic wax, the polyethylene glycol. And now they're in the freeze dryer, still freezing, and we'll draw the vacuum on them next week.